Welcome back to the show. My guest today is Jose Belen. He spent 3 years active duty in the U.S. Army. He is an artist and an author and an all-around man of many talents, and I'm really excited to have him on the show. Jose, thanks for joining the show, bro.
Absolutely. No, honored and just grateful to be here, man.
Absolutely. Shout out to Will Jones. Boom at your boy, Will
Yeah,
Jones, for linking us up,
boom.
man.
100% boom, yes.
Absolutely, man. Well, cool. Let's get right into this. Talk a bit about where you're from and
Sure.
what made you go into the Army. What was the mindset at the time and kind of how your family felt about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm originally from upstate New York, Amsterdam, New York. I was born in Manhattan and raised in upstate. My family's from Puerto Rico. Both my parents are from there, but I was blessed to be born in Manhattan. And so I grew up, in a household that was just filled with patriotism, from both sides. And, growing up a Yankee fan, being born in New York City, you just always have, that pride of where you're from, kind of in your DNA. And so during high school, I had this, mindset after failing 11th grade that I'm gonna finish this. I'm gonna graduate high school. I was supposed to graduate year 2000, but I failed. So that year was the repeat of 11th grade. And in that I said, Jose, you're on probation at 13 for robbing houses, okay? Because I was not doing the right thing. I grew up in an emotionally, abusive environment. I had a stepdad that was just not a nice person. And so being outside playing baseball sun up to sundown and then, getting into the street, took me on a path where, failing 11th grade was like, here it is. Everyone's been saying you're going to be the failure of the family. You're not going to make it. Teachers, can't stand you. And just a personal time period there, like some introspective, happening there. And I said, I'm going to join the military. Something I told myself. Grew up. My uncle served, my cousin served, Desert Storm, and have family served in Vietnam, and so grew up having respect, for the military within your own family, but then obviously what you see, out there. So I joined track and field, kind of out of nowhere, and that was my first leap forward to say, I'm gonna get ready for this. I'm gonna train myself. Ended up graduating high school June 2001, a year late, but it happened, and so I knew I was joining.
Few months right before sorry to interrupt, but a few months what was going to be happening very close to where you lived,
Well,
that
that's the thing.
change the world for all of us, right?
It changed it for all of us. That's what I'm saying. The story within itself is just one that is one of I can't imagine how many other brothers, sisters out there, New Yorkers that were in that same window. And so I already knew I was serving. I told my mom, just to her face, I said, listen, I'm going to join the Army. This is what's happening. I'm going to graduate high school and I'm leaving. I told my dad, he lived out in Seattle, Minnesota at the time. My biological dad straight up said, listen, this is what's happening once I graduate. And was in delayed entry program. And September 11th, that morning, I was up early. Had an amazing recruiter, at the time that was really, just kind of locked in, knew, I wanted combat arms and I just wanted to, this was again pre 9/11, this is what I wanted to do anyway. In my opinion, it's just why do anything else other than be a warrior, in that capacity? You got to earn it. And so my mom, that morning, I heard her scream downstairs. I ran downstairs and the first tower had just gotten hit. And I was holding her and in my mind, I was like, Jose, this is like an accident, but I just don't know. I just was in that kind of watching it live. And then we both watched the second tower get hit live on TV. And I remember that in my mind was like, oh, this is not an accident. And we're, whatever that comes. And my recruiter called me and he said, listen, motherfucker, you're going to war. I'm telling you right now. It was just,
Right.
And that's how it was. I was in basic training, so I signed on Field Artillery, 13 Bravo. I wanted to go in first, Ranger SF, kind of infantry, but I had a knee surgery that first they didn't want to let me serve at all. And then we kind of negotiated that if I could get through these 3 years in Field Artillery, they'd, waiver me, with an opportunity to reclass. So I ended up going to Fort Sill in January 2002. And then, a year after graduating, basic training, we're in spring of 2003 going into Iraq, going to combat.
Wow. Well, so yeah, you're the timing is crazy, man. Like, people of your and my generation, we all can remember that day down to the minute. So
yeah, it's like
you know what I mean?
We're about to do work, man. Oh,
that's right. I always ask people like what their parents think, right? Specifically moms, because they're, for sons. And I remember my entire family had been in the service at some point or another. And I just said, all right, Mom, this is it. I just looked at her when I watched that second plane crash. I said, all right, this is it. I'm going. If they need me, I'm going. And she turned pale, you know what I mean? And she came around to it later. But I just, when you were talking about holding your mom, I remember I did the same thing. You know what I mean? It's like, but in my mind, I was like, all right, motherfuckers, it's on. You know what I mean? Like,
and for me, it really hurt because, I had just been, so again, being born there in that city, it's a city like, always going down to the city and then leaving, seeing the Twin Towers. And I had just seen them just like, a week or two before at night, kind of leaving the city. And it was kind of something that I always did.
Yeah.
And so it was really fucking personal for a lot of us, obviously as Americans, but also as New Yorkers. It was like, wait, no.
No question. It's funny. I was out there on September 8th, I think, with my closest friend who's from Brooklyn originally. But we were out there on the 8th driving around those. A friend of ours, his sister worked in the towers up in that restaurant. So, but regardless, like I said, it's New Yorkers specifically, but that's also America City. I'm from the West Coast.
Yeah,
I love it, but that's our city. You know what I mean? So it's the most recognizable city, one of the most recognizable cities in the world, and it kind of represents America to the world. And so, our enemies knew that, which is why they hit it. You know what I mean? So, but anyway, now, where were you in Manhattan, like in proximity to southern Manhattan?
Oh, so I was upstate, so I was, that's like a 3-hour drive. So Amsterdam, so I grew up, far enough.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Upstate.
You were up. I apologize. I thought you were in Manhattan. I'm sorry.
No, I saw it on TV happening,
Gotcha.
Live. Gotcha. Yeah, my mom was the one screaming, say, come down here. We saw it live on TV.
Right.
And so, I want to make that clear, but it was just, a moment that, and then I went down there, once, a few weeks after that, personally, still, a few weeks and everything was still kind of on fire, and so I went there, right? And so that was pre-basic training, and so like when I got to basic, drill sergeants made it clear you're trained to kill. There's absolutely just, and I say this without glorifying any of that, but more so these were old school drills that knew where we were about to go, and for us to be able to, be effective on the battlefield, we were about to be broken in a way that we needed to understand.
That's right.
You train as you fight. And so it was always just coming from the right place, at least.
Yeah, they were doing their job. They have to prepare you for to try to best you can for what you're about to face. So that's
100%.
That's their jobs, Yeah, absolutely. Okay, I always ask about kind of the basic training experience. Because you're especially in big army, you're thrown together with people from all over the country, all different kinds. What sticks out to you about that, if anything? Personalities, experiences, leaders, whatever.
Yeah, you learn about. It's a great question. You learn about it, immediately when you get let out the cattle cars, and you're all pushing and pissing your pants and going through these first moments of. Like mentally, I mean, I guess this if you took, time to lock in that this was going to be a mental game, right? The physical part of it will endure whatever, get it. But if you can lock in, and so, seeing the different faces, right, and nationalities, and in those first moments, but we had that shared pain, that shared, like, what was happening to all of us. That at basic training, I served with some, country boys that literally, were so amazed at the diversity because they grew up in a very racist part of Mississippi.
Mm-hmm.
And they would tell me these stories that, and they're like, but I'm not like that, and I love you, you're my brother, like, and so there was this like barrier kind of broken down, because, growing up in New York, there's diverse crowd and stuff. You grow up kind of like not doing the right thing, so you're used to, kind of, the environment around you. But basic training became, a place that if you were about soldiering, right, and then beyond that, you were about warring, right, and you weren't there for ego. This is mastery here. I'm doing this to be the most effective that I can in my capacity. You've seen the element of teamwork, and it didn't matter if you were black, it didn't matter if you were white, if you were Asian. There was something just righteous about, and it's like, that's to me where it's like, this is what an American is. This is what America is. This is, you like, wow, there's such a synchronicity here. There's a respect here, and it's all, and everyone's again, like, even during that time, I was 19, 20. There was no politics that divided us. There was just a shared, understanding that at this time we were chosen to do something. And obviously you had some people that, had their, beliefs and didn't want to fucking associate and all that stuff. So you're like, all right, like, whatever. But if you were, focused on the task at hand, especially if you're training to go down range, ultimately, there is absolutely zero time for bullshit when it's time to work. And if we're going to work together, we're going to work together, right? And so in basic training, you learn those core values, leadership and whatnot, loyalty, duty, respect. Those are the soldier, core values, and, getting you prepared to go to your duty station and potentially receiving orders to go downrange, which is ultimately what happened.
It's very well put, man. Because I think that represents us at our best. That experience, you know what I mean, and where everybody, you're forced to come together, and especially when you go overseas. Any of us have spent time overseas, man, like as I have and you have. All that kind of goes away anyway, especially doing what you did. But you meet other Americans. You have far more in common than you realize when you really get over there, man. And it's an interesting experience, man. So, but you talked about it eloquently and perfectly. That's a perfect way of describing that. And it's I hear it again and again about people's first experience in basics. So, okay, so your first stop after SIL, you get trained up. Where do you go next?
So they gave me station of choice, and I was fascinated by like society's kind of like self-destruction over time, so wars and all that stuff. So, but World War II specifically was always something that kind of bothered me from childhood, and so I chose to be stationed out in Germany. Okay. So I was assigned to the 2nd Battalion, 3rd Field Artillery Regiment, Gunners, which is 1st Armored Division, Old Ironsides. So that's a storied unit. I was blessed to be assigned to that unit. So I graduated basic, went home, for a little bit. I did the recruiting thing, like you're home from basic training, you help your recruiters out, try to recruit. As a PV1, like PV2, and but then there's a countdown, like you're about to go to the unit, and so I was, I got to 2-3 in June of '02, and that's in Gießen, Germany. Our base was Gießen Army Depot, is an old Luftwaffe air base that we took over, and so from June till about December, I had, a time that we trained, and there was just something about that unit and the leadership there, and they explained to us, we are USRA, we are United States Army Europe. There's United States Army America that's over there in the States. We are, and there was kind of like okay, this, I can see this, why we are, we've been this effective. And so there's an immediate respect factor when you got to Germany, and it was great because drinking age, you're 19.
Right.
You're like, my best friend from basic training got assigned to the same unit. He picked me up at the airport, and he's like, the first place we're going is have a fucking Hefeweizen. I was like, what? He said, we're going to have a Hefeweizen, Jose. Let's go. And it's Travis Byers, and shout out to Travis. So yeah, I had my first Hefeweizen when I got there, and then so we had like about 6 months, 7 months before it was like, all right, there's something coming, and then we got the word that we were going downrange.
Okay. So are we talking like end of 2020, 2002, beginning of 3?
Mm-hmm.
That
3,
time
yes.
frame?
Yeah, it was that time. There was kind of chatter going on, and so we got the official orders. They let us know. But what was unique within those orders were that we were selected to also like ramp up and take on this training as infantry, right? So even though we were Field Artillery 13 Bravos, and I was on the Paladin, that we're on the big guns, that
Right.
we're actually, selected to go through this kind of training prior to going downrange. And then once we got, to Kuwait and out there, we're, doing work with SF and kind of mocking, with those guys. And they let us know, you guys, orders are to go to the specific sector, 51 West, Al Adamiyah, which is Baghdad, and to secure the entire city of Baghdad, provide the safety and security, and we're not to leave until that mission is complete, whether it's 12 months or beyond. And so yeah, we had a pretty savage training up to getting ready to go, and it was a rush. It was some guys obviously were not so thrilled, and we're like, fuck, and it's like, no, none of that, okay, this ain't no,
Right.
like, come on, like getting the shots. Some guys have to be held down, right? No, I can't take the anthrax. No, here it is, passing out.
That's like, right. So, I remember that time, boy. I remember that time. I remember when that was happening. That's right.
Yeah,
wow.
So it was like, you were going to war, guys, and so if you were in training right in garrison, like, and that's the thing for us, like, as a unit, we were always kind of locked in. We always thought it would be winter warfare because we were training in Grafenwehr, and below 1 temperatures and all that, but they say no, it's gonna get hot. And I remember just calling home, I call my just randomly, like, hey Ma, I said I gotta go somewhere for a while. She's like, what? Don't tell me that. And I was like, listen, I'm in Germany now, but you're not gonna hear from me. And I said, I'm going to war. And she was like, oh. I said, listen, it's too late for that.
Yeah.
I said, I'm going to do my job. I said, don't worry about it. I'm gonna be in office. I had her like in that whole thing, and so calmed her down, and I was like, dude, I'm going to do my job. This is there's no negotiating here. Whatever within the Geneva Conventions say, we're coming. And
That's
so
right.
Called my father, had the same straight up conversation with him. He's like, say, he's like, you haven't been in, not even a year. It's like, it don't matter. This is what's going down. I said, I'm going to be fine. And if I'm not, well, figure that out. You know what I'm saying? Like,
that's right.
And so it was to have their support, and also just like there was, again, if I was, in a different position, I perhaps wouldn't have been as so telling. But it's like, no, I know where I'm going. and that's high level work, and that's what we did.
Awesome. Okay, so crossing over from the border, Kuwait to Iraq, those first moments, and then getting into to your assigned place. Talk about your impressions. What were you seeing, hearing, smelling, anything?
Yeah. So appreciate the question. So prior to leaving Germany, they you get selected for your roles, right? So chief's like, you're, our 2 or 3 gunner, and then you're also our saw gunner, and also our 50 cal, gunner. And so once I was issued, right, my saw, once I was issued the grenades, the bayonet getting put in the hand, it's like, dude, this will happen if it has to, so there's, it's what happens with warriors, there's, and that's perhaps why it's so sacred. We don't talk about it per se. We don't appreciate the glorification of it, perhaps, because you have to understand where you're about to embark, what's about to happen, and you have, a job to do. And so once we got to Kuwait and had that staging period, that was also, time to acclimate the body, but also you're training every day. Sometimes you're doing CQB, like I said, with some SF guys. It's 120, 130, but you're just doing it. Your water's only cold because you put it in a PT sock, wet it and dug, with your E-tool, made some shade and took it out after 5 minutes, a little cold. Athena, lay down. So up until that point, everything is green, like you're green. And then, our leadership let us know we're having a formation, letting us, I believe it was, my 1-star, 2-star, came out and let us know, kind of gave us that, what you're about to embark on, what this is going to look like. And he said, look to your front, look to your rear, look to your left, to your right. We will not all go home together. Some of us will die. Some of you will die. And I remember we were all looking at each other, and there's just no way. But there's and then he went to, a lot of you are 19, 20 years old. When you come back, you're going to be mentally at the age of a 40 or 50-year-old. You're going to have gone through so much, and what you're about to do, is, should you survive, you will forever be changed. You will never be the same. And should you not be physically, he just laid it down, but it was the moment that, he made it clear that we would not all come home together, that some of us would die. It's like, all right. And so next day, I'm on the 50 cal, we have HETs, we got Humvees, and we're, on an 8 to 9 hour convoy from southern Kuwait to get up to Baghdad, and there's, Apaches if we need them, there's C-130s if we need them, there's, we're hell on wheels, in a sense ourselves, we're obviously old Ironsides, but the long and skinny of it is, as soon as you cross that fucking berm, you will now become the most savage, and honorable soldier on the fucking planet. And you will be effective. There's absolutely zero negotiations with what we say. Within these Geneva guidelines, what your morals are, just your moral compass, but also what is expected of you. And you will operate. And so I remember just locking, up to the 50, went over the berm, and, clearly, you go black, comes, and I went black on everything. I got my 50, but I got, my 249, I got my M16, I got, HE grenade strapped to my fucking chest, however it's going to come for you, let's see what happens. And so, the most terrifying thing was a group of kids started running at us.
Mm.
And what's your role as a gunner? To provide the safety and security of, everyone in that vehicle and all those around you within your damn sector
Right.
of fucking fire. And you will be effective. That just, and so, obviously there's, you're not, wanting to shoot kids with a 50 cal. You have to go through your mind how it's I'd have to at some point move to my rifle, and you have to think of how quick, okay, like these calls have to be made, so you have to compartmentalize that if these kids become a threat, right, it doesn't matter at this time, because in warfare, sadly enough, children are manipulated, and so you're having to come to that. You're analyzing for that, but then also, how am I going to put them down, right? Because if there's a group of them, and so, they, I think, realized, kind of what was in front of them, and they were of no threat. And I just thank God. But it also, how better to be snapped into the reality that you're in than a tactical situation within, and so what I try to explain to civilians, or anyone who hasn't crossed over into the war zone, is that once that's like entering a new reality on this earth realm, right? It's a war zone, okay? There's no other, just read the definition of it. Once you enter that arena as a civilian, as a combatant, as whatever, you'll forever be changed in one way or another. But when you're going, yourself as, I'm the infidel, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm in their country. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of these dudes that we're going to be fighting right now because they don't want anything else other than us to not be here. Right? And so I try to explain it, and it's like when a full moon happens, right? You ever see the werewolf movies? Mm-hmm. They're great person, out whining and dining, having the time of your life. Motherfucker, as soon as that full moon hits, run, right? So that is the kind of embodiment of what happens when you cross over into a war zone as a warrior. You are now, bound by your roles and responsibilities. You will do them with honor, and in this capacity, for us was, doing raids and intel and artillery missions, obviously, and but we got our way into Baghdad, and Garza took RPG shrapnel right to the face within minutes of us getting there, because this was the most pro-Saddam location. If he was anywhere else outside of Tikrit, he would be here, right? So within this sector, we had CIA, or that everyone is kind of there, but also were these servants to him. Right. So you could see the temperature rise as you go from Kuwait up. You get engaged here and there, but once you're within like the city, and it's traffic on traffic, and you're talking with with your weapons, like, and these people have little to no time to react. If it really does not look good.
Yeah, Baghdad's I haven't been, obviously, but you got mixes, you got Sunni, Shia in that whole country, which is majority Shia, and Saddam was a Sunni, and then on top of that, tribal, and his tribe, and it's just, there's so much going on over there that if you're not familiar with the area, it's hard, it's a little bit more difficult to understand, so like you said, you get into
off.
Yeah, right, and you got a lot of Ba'ath Party members that, like in any dictatorship, that live very well if they're connected with the ruler, and they'll
Well,
fight hard.
they gave us the deck of cards when we got to Kuwait. You know, they said learn these faces. We're like, who the fuck are these people?
Yeah, right.
And they're like, this is the bath party. We're like, what the fuck is the bath party?
Right.
You know,
Right.
I'm like, you know, we're like, you know, I turned 21 and 22 downrange. You know, I had my 21st birthday and my 22nd birthday. So if you really think in context, like, you know, we're you know, doing our job, but you know, at the same time, you know, we're 20 years old, you know, 19, you know, but it's America's finest at
Right.
the time. Yeah.
Right. Most other are, you know, waking up at 1 o'clock after a hangover in college somewhere. So at that age, you know what I mean? And you guys are having to make grown up adult decisions, man. So,
Well, you know what?
yeah.
The beauty in that, though, I isn't that what America is, though? Let us go do the work, man. You know what? Sleep in, motherfucker. We want that for you. I want you live, surf, go hiking, live America. We'll go do work, man. I don't hold that on anybody, man.
Oh no, and I don't mean that. I just mean that the vast majority, you know what I mean. You made a choice, but you know the vast majority at 19, I certainly wasn't doing anything that productive. So I just, you know, it's just like what the reason I say that is because for a young man of that age, it's a lot of responsibility. You know what I mean? To a young man or woman of that age.
We had some guys, though, point blank, were like, I didn't sign up for this. I just wanted money, you know, like just we're like really not doing well downrange, and that's where again you learn, you know, you don't shame people for their fears. You don't, you know, like I mean, but at the same time, like you can't be a liability on the fucking battlefield either.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And so like you learn a lot in war. Like I was able to understand that for as much evil and horror there is here, there has to, you know, at some point exist the opposite in good. So what good can I draw from this? What can I learn? Like, and so, you know, like it's a lesson in humanity that you can't go to the university for. You can study it, you can read about it, but it's literally like on the job training in humanity, because you see hunger, I mean, it's fucking war, you know, like it's, and you see like, damn, you know, this has been going on for millions of years. Like this is just in a sad way who we are.
It's as much a part of the human condition as anything else, except that, as like what General Patton said about it, and everything else pales in comparison. You know what I mean? It's the most extreme human experience, and so.
There's no drinking it, there's no smoking it. It's war, and you go there, and it'll change you.
Right. Okay, so once you kind of get into your routine, how long is this first deployment? How long does this last for you?
So we did 2 consecutive. So, you know, I did OIF 1 and 2. So it was 14 consecutive months. So
it's a long time.
And the thing is, I was, me and one other guy were the youngest in the firing battery. So, you know, there was a point where you get the 2 weeks of R&R, go home, you know, kind of come back, you know, you fly back into Baghdad type thing. And each time I'd have the opportunity to go, you know, back home, they'd say, no, this guy's, you know, wife just, you know, had a baby. He's going to your place, and you go next time. You'll go next time. And so, you know, I just was in straight pretty much combat for those 14 months, and that was fine. You know, I mean, you learn to deal with it. But yeah, so it was spring of 03 to we came home July 04. So May to July 04.
Okay.
May 03 to July 04.
And so you get back in 04. What's next for you?
So survived that. What ended up happening is my reenlistment window opened up when I was downrange, and Sergeant Mahoney, our retention NCO, you know, because everything's performance. You know, if you're good at your job, you're like, if you do the right thing, and you know, there's bullshit everywhere, but traditionally, if you just fucking do what you got to do, and if you're, you know, effective in it, well, why wouldn't these, you know, opportunities open for you? So I was blessed to earn, you know, like the opportunity to reclass to SF within my reenlistment window, because I had my ETS date was January 05. Okay. So I got home in July 04. So while I was in Iraq, Sergeant Mahoney asked me what I wanted to do. They offered me station of choice, the whole thing. He's like, you earned it. And so I had the 2 birthdays, kind of went through that. The best friend got killed with the captain on Captain Saltz, and Stuart Moore were killed on 22 December. So like there were a number of ops, that caused some casualties. That, like I'll just say carried children, that were dying in my arms and had them die on me, and carrying them lifeless, and then closing their eyes. Right so when the opportunity for me to re-enlist and continue, this journey and what I'm clearly, made for, I had survived enough, situations just like time after time. Didn't know when we were going home, but I had a choice. Like, I'm either gonna commit my entire life to this and become, whatever, should I earn, the Ranger tab, should I earn that Green Beret? And in my mind at that time, it's like, you earn it, you know what I'm saying? And you will continue this life. But that's a lonely life, right? Because I became friends with a lot of operators down there. We, have conversations, and you kind of, leadership is amazing, right? Because there's no true leadership, there's no ego in that. There's just, where you're trying to go. And so I had amazing leadership from battlefield moments to just in those times of quiet, when there were. And so I told Sergeant Mahoney that I was like, yeah, I'll do it. And there was like a 2-week window from when they'll do the actual ceremony and get all the paperwork right and all that. And in those 2 weeks, I had gone through, a couple other different things, lost some other guys, and just started having this thought that if I leave this deployment alive, which I don't know, because there literally is that, for anyone who was in Baghdad, Iraq in 2003, 2004, running those ops, they know exactly. We had, we were there with no up armors. We had frag vests. We had no, sappy plates. Okay, we adopted a warrior mentality that, while honorable, the possibility of you dying is beyond real. And does my mother warrant that? I know, like, I have to call my best friend's mom as soon as I get home, okay, and have that I think of my brother, and what do I want out of life? I want to have a family one day, perhaps. I want to have kids, and so I was waiting to call my mom on a sat phone before, it was like the day before the re-enlistment, or like a couple of days before, and I just had this thought. I was like, you know what, Lord, I was praying. I was like, if I survive this deployment, if you give me my life and I live through this, I will work in any job I can, and I'll work until my hands bleed. I'll be the hardest worker. I promised him that, and then I promised him that I would do good in this world, that I would do good things, that I would get out, that I would understand that I did what within the time that I had the honor of serving with this specific unit, with Stewart and Captain Saltz and Duhai Tran, and even those who passed after the deployment, they survived this one with me. I made peace with that decision, so I thought, and I got out in January 2005. The amazing thing was, when we got back to the unit, command selected me to be the SAW instructor. And because, again, you don't do things because you want to look cool or sound cool, get the patches, get the badges, all that. You do it because it's right. And so getting back to the unit, there was now this next generation of soldier that was about to go downrange. And, I had some time to, train them on the saw, 203 and just overall preparing them for battle. And so when it was like bittersweet, that I trained them as best I could. And, I got out in January '05, and that story dovetails into something beautiful now, because a few years ago, I got a direct message, recognized the last name, and he said, "I don't know if you remember me, but I was a soldier in 2-3, and you helped train me and get me ready to go to war." And he just retired, did a few tours, and it was like became the leader and the soldier I was, and I survived, combat because of, the lessons you taught me prior to going downrange. And I went through that, and my career was because when I was, 19 years old, you took the time, and he's like, if no one's ever told you, he's like, you matter to somebody, and so.
Highest compliment you can get there.
Well, because that's what I'm saying, like, and that's why veterans struggle getting out of service, and veteran suicide is what I have been fighting for. I will fight for until the day I die, until it's done, because I myself didn't understand what was to come, right? Like, you do a good job, you did it honorably, you have it, no one needs to know about it but everyone that was there with you, you know what I'm saying? And now you're just kind of gonna come back into civilian life. Right. And that was not an easy transition.
Yeah, and so let's get to that part, of your story, man. You're done, you're separated out. So what, how does those first few years go for you?
They were interesting. I went back to New York, where I left from. I always would take care of my mom, because like I mentioned, she was always, kind of taken advantage of. And I had an opportunity for the first time in my life to come home as a grown man and be able to look after my mom. Combat vet or not, and I want to spend that time, because she had almost passed away when I was in high school. From she had a spinal tap, and then some complications from that, and so she tried to take her life, due to the so me getting out of the service also was because someone needed me at home. And then my brother was only 8 years old at the time, so he was also suffering through me being gone all these years, because I was kind of and so it was an interesting time, because I don't know, I knew I had a problem, but you don't think you have a problem because you don't have emotions. Nothing makes you happy. Like you have nightmares fucking left and right. The VA's got you on pills that are making you sleepwalk, and some make you cry more, and then they tell you, oh, that's part of it. You'll get used to it. Like then you get told, like, look, you have shell shock, PTSD. You'll never be the same. You're going to be on these pills, pretty much for the rest of your life. You have panic disorder, anxiety disorder, like you're disabled, right? But then you're like 23 years old, 24. So there's like a conflict that, I wanted to still be somebody, but this is a blue collar, kind of, it's a interesting, place to have grown up. I love, it's old carpet mills, and so the job opportunities for a field artilleryman
right
aren't,
yeah,
so
aren't jumping out at right, gotcha.
Yeah. So the one thing I knew I had was a work ethic. So I applied to work at Walmart distribution center. It was a Friday, Saturday, Sunday position. You work full time, 38 hours by Sunday. So you are 5 a.m. to like 6 or 7, some days 8 or 9. You're there Friday, Saturday, Sunday, full time, benefits, and I was so grateful that they gave me that job, you know, because I was kind of in this period where I didn't want to associate with my friends. I didn't want to associate with anyone. My friends would come to the house, like, hey, come out, bro, like, let's go out. And I didn't want to fucking do anything. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Like, I think it took like an 8-month period, and then got through that, got the help, but then you realize the help's not helping really. And so you get a fucking job, you know what I'm saying? Like, you got this, like, you have intrinsic motivation still from being a soldier, but you're now, seeing the child, that you couldn't save. When you see this child, the color red, anytime I see it is when I had to carry my best friend's blood with my bare hands and burn it in a fire pit. You know what I'm saying? Like, I chose, they needed somebody to remove, his seat that he was blown the fuck up in and had all his stuff in it. And who, damn right I'll fucking do it.
That's right.
But see, imagine how many times you see the color red in a day. So to have an association with that thought and that sight, you were like going through it. So fortunately, Walmart gave me that job, and I worked the 38 hours, did overtime. It gave me a sense of like meaning, but at the same time, it's like, I want to be able to take care of my mom. I want to be able to like get her to the house one day. I want to be able to like do more for my family, and like I know I'm the workhorse pretty much, to do this and what that looked like. And this local college was doing real estate classes at night, and I signed up because I'm like, well, man, I could probably do good in sales. I'm not afraid of shit. I can talk to people. I love people. I'm like, okay, so go educate yourself. And so I did night school during the week, and then Walmart, that during the weekends. I took my state exam, and I got my real estate license. That was like '06 time frame. Got the realtor certification, really attacked the market. So I did real estate Monday through Thursday and worked at Walmart on the weekends, right? Like, and I knew there was a problem in a way, but like I guess I can say it now. You're afraid, right? Of what if this is not working? Like, no one at work knows what you're going through. Like, I'm over here crushing it on the weekends, but I'm tired as fuck. You have nightmares all damn night. These pills I'm supposed to be on make me groggy. I'm on machinery. I can't take this shit. So then you have to learn to not be on the pills. So you go through this. You're trying to be somebody. You get the education, right? You set goals for yourself. You can accomplish them. But there's still like this death of you inside. Like, you're still on the battlefield in your mind 24. It doesn't matter. You're effective in your task. You can do a good job. You can compartmentalize. Great. But there's this whole other side of you, part of you, that is not getting any help, any true attention. And so, the real estate market, kind of went to shit in that time. I had a girlfriend at the time here in Florida, in Orlando, say, hey, why don't you just move out here? I just knew I couldn't stay in New York. A lot of my buddies were still doing the same thing. couldn't save them, that I needed to like just kind of, take a leap of faith. Like I was still working at Walmart, and Walmart had a transfer opportunity
Down to Florida.
to Florida, and
Yeah.
but the legend was no one ever would get it, and don't waste your time. It's never given, blah blah. So I always knew my work. I always had confidence in my work, man. Like you don't work for anything other than doing a good job, not paying attention to anything else, not trying to be better than nobody, not trying to fucking make more money than nobody. Or you're gonna do amazing at your job, And so I was like, well, if I can get the job transfer down there, it makes sense. And my mom had a brain aneurysm, and almost died right in front of me. As like this is happening, and it was also because I wasn't at the house a lot, and my stepfather, she couldn't be under pressure, stuff like that, and had gotten her to that point. The doctor told me, this is, what's happening. She could die right in front of you. Don't react, kind of this stuff. So I'm like, in this, like, fuck. Like you have what happened downrange, but then right now, mama, as a result of childhood trauma, you haven't even gotten help for. Right. Like there's, and that's the thing with mental health as a whole. So long story short, by grace, it stopped. They got the ink and they were doing the everything they could, but the doctor was putting in to do like an emergency surgery. He's like, one of two things can happen. It could stop on its own. He's like, it's just very rare. He's like, but so fortunately she didn't pass, and that kind of paused things. Mm-hmm. Once got a restraining order on my stepdad, like went through, got all that. Family came from Puerto Rico, stayed with her. My grandma came, family, and once she was taken care of, I was like, Mom, I got this opportunity possibly to leave, but I don't want to leave you. What I'm saying? Like, I left you once type thing, and look what happened. What I'm saying? Look what happened to my brother.
Right.
And, but I know I'm at a time I got to do this for me. You know what I'm saying? Right. And she, my grandma was there, my family was there, like, Jose, put in for the transfer. Like, if God grants it for you, every bird has to leave the nest. You left once, she literally told me, she's like, fly. She's like, just go.
Right.
And
right.
she was still like I said, like all recovering and stuff. And so I applied. I remember getting to the HR lady, and she was like, you're not going to get this, or she said something like that. I was like, we'll see, and they approved it in like 24 hours, like super quick, like boom, transfer approved the Winter Haven. I was like, what? And managers like Paul Cirillo, I love him to this day. We're still super good friends. He's like, dude, he's like, you're an amazing employee. And in that time there, I was able to help mentor some guys that were struggling through things in life and never served, but with their masculinity and like, like, so I always value that time, because that job allowed me to not only help heal through what I was going through, because I felt like I was a part of a team. I had amazing colleagues and stuff, and I was able to help some of them. And, made the trip down here September 11th, 2007. I drove 23 and a half hours straight from New York. I drove by the city. And I remember just having that moment where the towers weren't there, mm-hmm. and kind of going back, like you did right by them. You know what I'm saying? Like you didn't give anyone anything they didn't have it coming. You know what I'm saying? Like you did it right. And that's what a lot of veterans struggle to like understand, that while perhaps it was a brief period of your life or your whole life, your entire career, you were a part of something special, because you are yourself special. You know what I'm saying? You know what you did, and there's a suffering that a lot of us carry by just having done the right thing. we simply just raised our hand to serve our country. What came of that? So, coming down here, it was a new opportunity. I didn't realize how far of a drive it was going to be from Orlando to Winter Haven. So it was like an hour and a half. So it was, they had to cut my hours or slower. And so I worked there for about a month. And AIG, American International Group, was hiring for bilingual insurance professionals at the time. And I'm bilingual, speak Spanish, and my girlfriend, her mom got me a referral. And I pulled up to this interview and interviewed for the position. It's still kind of crazy to tell this story because it's really been a journey. They asked me why should we hire you? Because I had my little real estate background, my Walmart. Like I'm applying for $1 billion enterprise over here, and I got this 3-year window in the U.S. Army, and then I got this high school diploma that took me 5 years to get. What's up, dude? What do you want?
Hire me, man. I'm willing to handle millions of dollars, man.
That's what and that's again, like I understand so much more now, but at the time, the communication is like, I told him, I was like, I have a set of battlefield tactics, right? Because if you can perform under complete, utter chaos with tact, with responsibility, and that the job you're applying for is not going to have an ounce of the pressure you were able to perform, these tasks under. If you can come into this environment, be given a task order, what is the job, what is the description, what's the objective, you can get that done. And so I was like, listen, I served, in the Army, I had a lot of time, obviously, downrange, but my role here is to be your top seller one day. Just please give me the chance. Because I really didn't have a chance outside of this. Like, it was just what I was doing at Walmart or just finding my way around Orlando. And so, by the grace of God, I always give them credit, Tim Fenue and Mitch Lopez, both incredible mentors and friends in my life to this day. They offered me the job, and so for 10 years I was in the 1% of the direct insurance industry for AIG and for Farmers Insurance. I went through bankruptcy with AIG, or their bankruptcy. Like, I was part of that. Like, when that nightmare happened, I remember getting to work, and I had a sales goal, and so my mind was like, this is how you're able to take care of your mom and pay her rent. This is how you're going to be able to take care of your family. This is how you yourself will be, you can get your own house. You can use, because that was one of the things that I didn't even know when I joined. Like, I can buy a house one day. So like, you start having these goals in front of you, and I was blessed to get to a point where I was performing very well at work. I was able to take care of my mom during that time. My friends, like, if it was your birthday, I started to find kind of life in being able to make happiness happen for other people, not only through financial means, but I also noticed in the corporate sector what false leadership was. Like, I'm getting like higher and higher because I'm earning it. I'm loyal. Like, I'm all my quality percentages are 100%. You can't outwork a good work ethic. You know what I'm saying? Like, the honorable things that come from it. And so you started to see your friends. I started to see, and all this time I'm going through my own struggles. But you see, your colleague over here talking about suicide, because they can't even make it to the first level, right, of that commission grid. And so it's like, dude, I got you. Let me sit down and help you. I would sit down with them, and I even told farmers, don't even pay me overtime. I'll just come in and just sit. And I started realizing, like, I was fulfilling myself with this job and being able to, like, provide for my family. I'm helping other people. But then when I leave at 5 o'clock and I'm home and I'm dealing with survivor's guilt still, I'm dealing with, you know, all the shit that we went through down there on a daily basis in that time frame that I'm home, the nightmares, yeah, let's go have a fucking beer that turns into 3 or 4. You know, you're on the pills, you're off the pills. You know, I used to carry a loaded 6 Sauer, you know, on me, my 9 mil, round in the chamber, no safety on that son of a gun. And, you know, I was so, like, neglecting my self-care while working at this job that it did get to the point where, you know, I told, you know, my fiance that became my wife at the time, or my wife after that, my fiance at the time, I was like, look, you know, you're going to come home and I'm going to blow my fucking brains out. You know what I'm saying? You don't understand me. Like, there's all these things that you go through inside and you're having to constantly hide it. And so, like, that's where, when you realize the money can't buy it, you know, the helping your mom doesn't fix it, you're doing a good job, you have all these amazing fucking things that you're doing, and while you're doing it, no one at the job but HR and your manager know how fucked up you are. And so you're having to hide behind the smile. I'm great. But then, you know, if sometimes I just go out in my fucking car and cry. Just have a fucking just like, and I have to come back inside, pretend like I had like the sniffles or something. And so, you know, there's a twist, I guess, in how things were okay for a while when I got home. You know, I was able to kind of hold on to myself until about 2011, 12, 13. Like, that's when, you know, everything kind of unraveled for me.
Okay, what's your opinion in terms of you know, you mentioned the VA and the pills and all that other stuff, and that's a common refrain I hear a lot. What got you through that time and kind of got you away from that mode of healing in terms of like just popping pills and going up and down like that? What got you to that? Because you're an artist as well. Did that play a role? Helping others, obviously, that's always a positive thing. What got you through that though?
So when I met Danielle, my wife, you know, she met me at a time, just like 2012, or 2011, 2012. I was doing very well, you know, for myself and for my family and stuff, but I was either not taking the pills at the time because taking the pills was a nightmare, right? Or I was bouncing off and on. You know, you know, she was like, look, you're in denial, you need help, you know, you need to go to the VA again, I'll go with you, I'll be a part of the conversation, like, you know, they can't just keep on switching you off and on, like, let me help you get help. My best friend getting killed downrange was it savages, it will forever, you know, inflict the pain of it. But up until a few years ago, and really more recently, in the last 6 months, like, I've been able to like understand it in a different way. But, you know, because his daughter, my best friend's daughter, and I think it's important for, you know, people to understand that maybe dealing with survivor's guilt. You know, Stuart, you know, had a daughter who was about 8 months old when we were deploying. He was married. Before the deployment, she was out in Germany with his wife. I held her, held his daughter, the baby, and met the family. And prior to the deployment, he came home from PT, and the wife left a note on the door. I'm taking the baby back to Texas. I want a divorce. So when we deployed, his biggest fear was dying before he ever saw his daughter again and held his daughter again. And so like my job, obviously the Army was to do my job, but also to keep him alive at all costs. I'll die, like there's no way. And so like, when he passed away, it was on an op that we were going to be on together, and then he volunteered. It's just like this horrible dynamic that's all too common in combat, obviously. But, I knew I would have to talk to his daughter one day, and we would meet, as his mom, his dad. And when I came home in 2005, most of the guys from the unit, they're like, Pam and Dennis want to talk to you, because they know, like, we were roommates before the deployment. This is my best buddy. And I had to call his parents because I was with him that morning, and like, you think you know horrors until you hear like a mom cry.
No, yeah.
And that was in 2005 when I came home, and they were like, Jose, come out to Texas. We love you. We have a memorial for Stuart, and every year on his birthday, we're going to have a climb, and all the guys from the unit come. We want to see you. And when I met Danielle, I still hadn't gone. That was like 6 years after that call. I was really going through it, and having someone who in your space who sees you not as a broken person, but as someone who really needs help, and can get you to understand that while painful, this is how your healing will start. You need to get to Texas. She identified that. So like pulling teeth, she got me enrolled in like a therapy program where I had to kind of relive it, the whole thing for like 6 months, and like go through that. And I went to Texas a year after that. Still, obviously, this was so like 2014, 2015-ish. Still going through the motions, but I'm making progress because I got to Texas. When I got to his grave, so I started to see, Jose, this is why, in a way, for veterans, it's an uphill battle. It's when you accept the pain, you accept it all, you know you are either, for the rest of your life, the best help you can get right now is from those people over there, and the best thing they're going to give you is these bottle of pills. Or saying, fuck no, actually, cannabis is over here, right? And that's a whole nother conversation, because I wouldn't smoke cannabis because I was afraid to get drug tested at my job.
Right.
So I identified that I was living in 3 different places. I'd either like take a bowl hit every now and then, like and like pray, like I'd be in this anxiety riddled,
Right.
and be like, all right, I'm not, but I can't do that because that, I'm a horrible employee if I do that, if I get some bud from you, I'm a criminal now if I get caught, like all these things. But it's like, I'm not gonna fucking take these pills anymore,
Right.
because they're not. So I was in that world for a long time, and the VA, I don't vilify them. They help a lot of veterans. They I think there's just systematic and legal issues, laws, I should say. But what became aware clearer and clearer as I got worse because, and this is what I could never understand it, but when I first come home, they're like, this will probably get worse over time as you get older. And I'm like, but why would it ever do that? You know, and they're like,
Right.
you don't understand what happened to you.
Right.
And so, you know, it got to the point where, you know, I was working at home. You know, I got promoted. I was always producing at work, taking care of my now wife, you know, our daughter, my stepson, earned the house, earned a hat. I'm like, oh wow, man, look at where you're at, dude. And I still had my pistol in my lap, wanting to blow my fucking brains out if I'm being completely and I was lying, living this, like, I would lay in my bed with my infant daughter and my wife. And I used to sleep with my pistol underneath my fucking mattress. My wife said, can you at least put it in the damn closet? But I would lay there and just say, go ahead and grab the gun and kill yourself right now. Just grab it. Just do it. Just do it. Just do it. Right? And so you share this with the VA, right? Where you got to give up your firearms. But then the reality is the side effects of these medications often cause these ideations, right? These false realities. So when my wife was like, you know, motherfuckers, like, we would go down there, like, this stuff here, you know, if he had access to a firearm, he would have killed himself. And they're like, yeah, we know, we shouldn't have put him on that. You know, they put me on venlafaxine and nortriptyline at the same time, and they should never have done that. And, you know, that was in 2016. I almost, when it wasn't the love of having a daughter that could stop the guilt, when it got to the point, wasn't the family, it was just everything that happened down there, haunting almost your every fucking moment still. Like, it's terrifying until you can actually, like, that's when I got to saving myself, is by that suicide almost happening. You know, I went to farmers and give them credit to this day. Told HR, had all my VA paperwork. I'm like, listen, I've been this top producer for y'all, and I've been doing an amazing thing all these years, but, you know, I'm really fighting also for my life at the same time. And I had never taken LOA or anything from the job, and they gave me 6 months of LOA. And the fall of 2016, my wife was still there, hanging on. You know, she got, you know, with the kids, you know, went through as well, through that. You know, you're boozing, you know, like, and at the time I was drinking Fireball at 9 a.m. You know, I'm taking shots, but I'm cranking out sales all day. I'm doing, you know, great things on the external that and that's
anybody else looking in, they would be like, this guy's killing it.
That's where at the company I had the picture on the wall, but it's like, I hated that. I resented it. And so, like, I knew that for me to save myself, as much as that job was kind of like who I was, everyone knew me as that person. Like, I was ultimately part of an industry I didn't believe in. I really cared about all my customers, serviced them all right. And when I started to learn about, right, stocks and just really higher level, C-level stuff, you're part of the President's Club, you're you know, like, you're,
yep.
And it's like, you know, this isn't who I am at the core. That in this time period, I need to figure out who the fuck I am right now. There's no guns in the house. I'll never forget. I just told my wife, I was like, take them. Here, take them. I knew, I couldn't believe it. Dude, I'm a saw gunner. You know, there's no way I could ever put my guns down for a little bit of time, because it makes sense right now, because I'm dealing with mental health issues. Actually, no, that's the best thing you need to do. And once I knew, like, that in fixing me, it would make me the father that my daughter deserves to have. It would make me be, you know, the better version of myself overall. You know, if not for anyone else, for my daughter, you know, for my stepson, for my family, but also for myself. But I just didn't know how. I started writing and stuff, and I always like question the amount of times I wanted to kill myself, or, you know, and just, I hate to just say it as raw as that, but it's like there's still, as we're on this right now, a problem. Veterans are taking their lives this evening, every 65 to 72 minutes, right? So in having to realize you have, you know, work to do on yourself, there's a lot of introspection. You have to really look at, how does this never happen again? And that's a terrifying journey, because, you know, there's the pills. Cannabis isn't medical yet. This is 2016. I did get to a point that I was smoking. Like, I said, the hell with the fucking job if I have to. I remember feeling like a rebel inside, you know, and I was like, there's something to this, because I started reducing the amount of alcohol intake, right? But then the pills, like, it's still not right. But I took that 6-month period to not only work on myself, but take a look at what is obviously it's beyond a crisis. Veteran suicide is a known statistic. When I, you know, realized that, like, wait a minute, Jose, what you went through is what they're all going through. Right. And then you see 22 a day average. You know, you stumble upon that for the first time. You're like, well, what's that mean? 22.
Yeah.
And that just like twisted me in a way that it was like, something's got to be done about this. And I was like, look, I survived somehow in a $1 billion industry in a corporate setting at a super high level, while I was over here, you know, dying inside, and somehow hung on, you know, to the point where this can be fixed. But it's going to take, you know, a lot of time. So I resigned the day I was supposed to get back to work. It was 7:59. I sent the email to Cindy, and you know, obviously I told my wife. I was like, look, you know, I want to figure out a way to help end veteran suicide, and I don't know what that looks like, but my mom said we can move in with her. And you know, there was a lot going on, you know, at the time, and I was like, look, just have faith. She's like, but, you know, like, you're letting go of the security, like, you know, all that, this and that. I was like, you know, we'll figure it out. And I resigned with a clear conscience. She called me. She's like, what do you mean? I was like, look, this is what I've been going through for the years I've been here, and I was almost one of them. And you guys have there's no system for veterans here. There's a gap out there. And so that's what started, like, the advocacy campaign that I'm on to this day. A different journey altogether into, you know, doing different projects and creating different systems to try to help end veteran suicide. And art, you know, I stumbled upon.
Nice. Okay, and talk a bit about the University of Health and Performance. Talk a bit about some of the organizations that are available for people that were in the situation that you were in.
Absolutely. You know, so, you know, in leaving that job, you know, in 2017, you know, I don't know if I want to say one always struggles what the question is, what is my purpose or what is my legacy? But I found myself in a unique place, within the last year. And fitness is something that's always been, near and dear to me. But through the constant fight that, we're all in every day, if you're dealing with PTSD or TBI, stuff like that, you're aware you're constantly fighting. And so I stopped working out for a while, stopped training. And my buddy, Ron, who runs an amazing organization called Balanced Veterans. So I want to make sure we plug Balanced Veterans. That's an amazing resource that's out there. He's an amazing leader in the space, and he let me know, because we always do the buddy check-in. We check in with one another and keep tabs that he was going to be off grid for a while. He was going to like a three-week high intensive university training up in like near the Ozarks. I'm like, what the fuck, And right. He's like, dude, it's amazing, and you should look into it. And I did, but I was like, there's no way I could ever, get into something like this. It's not possible for me. It doesn't happen, kind of thing. And he reached out to me, and he texted me one day. He's like, please just fucking apply, bro. He's like, they got scholarships. I'm telling you, please just apply. So I applied, and they reached out and awarded me the scholarship to go up to the University of Health and Performance to kind of take on a new career in fitness, but also, have an opportunity to do something that I'm passionate about myself, having served, the time I spent in, corporate America, mentoring my colleagues, the soldiers, I trained some Iraqis downrange to become ICDC, so it's always kind of been in the DNA, but I never thought it would be something that could happen. And so they have a 3-week cornerstone course program they offer via the scholarship. And with that, you get the opportunity to get your national certification as a personal trainer through NITA to do that. But you go through their course curriculum, which is physical, it's educational. It was co-founded by, FitOps is the foundation behind the university, and CEO is Matt Hesse, but it's important to also say thank you to John Cena, because John Cena actually helped fund FitOps. So University of Health and Performance has an amazing story within itself, that these scholarships that are out there are providing veterans with opportunities and to find purpose again. I got my certification last week. I found out I passed a national exam. I applied for a personal training position at a local gym and got the job the next day after talking to the DM. And that happens. Why? Because instead of saying no to myself, said, yes, I can go do something like this right now. And, it's important to just let veterans know that it's not only going to be the organizations that are out there. It has to come from you, but also to the civilians or to the community out there as a whole, it has to also come from us, right? So whether it's fitness, whether it's art, whether it's fulfilling your passions, make sure, in that you're really serving that inner spirit. And if your inner spirit says, I want to live a life where I make a difference in people's life every day, because that's where I'm at now. And I can share this. I took my last VA medications 3 years ago. 3 years off them. I titrated down because I realized, I said, you know what? And I'm not plugging this, I'm not recommending it. Everyone has their walk. Only you know what your feet have gone through, what your eyes have seen. Respectful of each person, every individual's walk. If you get to a point, where you're facing certain fears, educate yourself, make sure, but don't be afraid to take, the next step in fixing yourself. I stopped drinking alcohol last summer because, I was, boozing left and right, healing myself through that still, and found myself in the hospital, had gout, and the doctor's like, listen, it's going to happen, buddy. Heart attack, stroke, one of them. You're, overweight by 30 pounds, and
Yeah.
before you get to a place where, your family may be, one more step away from out the door, or,
Yeah.
you may be one step from hurting yourself or hurting somebody else. Like, ask for help. And organizations, like Balanced Veterans, 110%. It goes without saying that it's the veterans like Ron, right, that can continue to empower themselves and start organizations like, Balanced Veterans, Veteran Surf Alliance out of Santa Cruz, Operation Surf.
Yep.
Like, there's so much out there, but until the day we ourselves, like, as the person going through, and you don't have to have gone to war to have PTSD. You don't, it could have been from a car accident, traumatic event. If you're dealing with anxiety, any one of those things, like, understand there is a way to with health, right, with doing it maybe looking nothing like it looks today, possible. And if there's anything else, like, I can close with, like, don't be afraid of being happy. It's possible. I was so miserable and cold and just dead inside for so long, right? Because you're this person that was down there, and, like, right, you have this, like, how can I possibly love, or how can I possibly like fuck that, it's like, no, the opposite of that. If you have to cry, cry.
Yeah, that it's and I can testify to that. I just want to even go add a step further because you and I met because of University of Health and Performance and Will Jones, and out here Will is like Matt Pesh, who was a Green Beret as well. But Will does these workouts, man, on the beach that he was kind enough to allow my old fat ass to join with him, and he's just so positive all the time, man, and he's like a fireball in this community, man, and I can attest to that. And everybody knows him. Everybody that sees him, like, that dude's energy is incredible. And he went through his whole thing as well, and using fitness as a mode to kind of help people, and veterans or otherwise, is such an awesome way of rehabilitating yourself.
He was my roommate up there, so it was me, him, and Nick. Shout out to Nick. And Boom is a very special person in this world. Like, the amount of strength we've gained from each other, but especially up at camp. And that's why it's important for veterans to find each other. But if absolutely 110%, Boom is a shining example of what is possible. Doesn't matter if you're 11 Bravo, doesn't matter. Like, we could have gone through a lot of things, but you know what? Damn right you can wake up every day and help put a smile on someone else's face and do amazing things, man. And fitness is that path too, bro. Mm-hmm. Yep.
That is, it's a great vehicle, man. Because everybody needs it, and it builds on itself too. Because fitness in and of itself is a mental health thing. You know what I mean? Getting in shape helps you tremendously, man. It helps everybody that does it, man. I've just seen it help so many other people. It's helped me, man. It helped get me off my ass after 2 years of not doing much. So,
well, dude, it literally, like, I would fall apart up there sometimes because I guess I've been going through a very difficult time personally over these last months, starting in January. My family and I, and so getting up there, I was 25 pounds overweight, BMI at almost 30, going through these personal struggles, and knowing that there's no way this scholarship would have been, I wouldn't be up in Northwest Arkansas with this opportunity if I wasn't capable of doing it. That as I'm here, in front of you tonight, and that class was July 17th to August 5th. We came home on the 6th. As I'm here tonight with you, 15 pounds damn near, lighter, okay? My diet looks nothing like it ever had. My body fat, is down to I believe about 22 now. And you have to believe in yourself, especially if you're a leader. Is that if I'm a better person today, because people like Boom, right, like Ron, University of Health and Performance, believe in us, but also we have to believe in ourselves. If we're ultimately in a leadership position or a coaching position, we have to, with truth, live what we do. Okay, and that's what was beautiful about this opportunity, is that if you were in the selfless service at one point in your life, or if you were in the service as a whole, as a veteran, absolutely look at fitness as an opportunity to not only help improve other people's lives. Your life will change as well, because, and I see the change in my daughter ever since I came home. We jump rope together. We run together. Like there's beautiful things that are possible through a lot of the struggles that veterans are going through.